Hello, and welcome to another week of Drew Levin's Crazy Legacy Brews. I'm your host, Drew Levin, and this week I am playing, as you might be able to see, a nearly mono-black attrition strategy based around Nether Trader and Bloodghast. And we're playing in some medium stakes legacy queues. The winner gets a Vintage Masters pack instead of a worthless Theros block pack, so added incentive to win. So we have a hand of a couple of fetch lands, no Bloodghast unfortunately, but Nether Trader, and then Cabal Therapy and Umezawa's Jitte. So I'm interested in keeping this hand because we have Nether Trader, which has Shadow, and Umezawa's Jitte, which is the best equipment in the history, and Cabal Therapy to clear our opponent's hand of whatever removal they might have. So our opponent is playing Miracles, which makes our therapy pretty easy since they played top on turn 1. So our hand is especially weak to Swords to Plowshares, which they don't have, but they do have Counterbalance. Here, I'll just write this down. Counterbalance, Jace, Pyroblast, and Terminus, and a Mesa that they're going to play, so doesn't really matter. So the plan is they're going to play Counterbalance. They're not going to flip a 2-drop. And we're going to cast Nether Trader, attack them. If we draw a creature, sacrifice it to flashback Cabal Therapy. We didn't, so we're going to have to keep this in play. Our deck is fairly weak to Miracle's overall strategy of removing creatures from play. Our therapy also actually just not going to be any good because they have Sensei's Divining Top. But yeah, our strategy very weak to Terminus and Swords to Plowshares, both of which Miracles plays. So we're going to have to come at it from a slightly different angle in sideboarded games, as you'll see. But if we had another creature at all, then I'd be interested in playing Contamination. But as it is, I think we just have to play a land, attack, and cast Jit. Our early game is fairly anemic. Our late game is quite strong, as you might imagine, from Contamination and the ability to return creatures in a nearly endless stream. So if they flip over something like Rest in Peace, we're just done on the spot, since we don't have any main deck answers to Rest in Peace. But they don't have a 2 on the top of their deck. I suppose we can't really be terribly hopeful that they have nothing on 4 since we saw their Jace. So I assume what's going on is they're brainstorming back the Pyroblast and the Terminus. And so we get to hit Jace, is really what happens. And then protect our Nether Trader from terminus with the JIT counters. So still, fairly anemic. You saw he put terminus on top, declined to cast it. And so I guess his plan here is find a... Oh, he's going to terminus in our attack step. That makes a decent amount of sense. So we're flooding out quite a bit here, but I think we just have to pump, and then he can terminus. He messed up doing that though, so we do in fact get to... Oh, we also messed up. So he should have waited until our pump resolved. We should have waited until his miracle trigger resolved. So he punted, I repunted. But I don't think that we're going to be making much of a game of it with 8 lands, 4 spells. Especially against an active Jace. I'm trying to think of how we get out of this since we know our opponent has force in hand. But I think we're just dead here. And we'd like to not show him most of our deck. So for this matchup, we want the Dark Confidants, we want the Needles, we want the Abrupt Decays. Massacre doesn't do anything. Extirpate does something, but not enough. None of our creatures are dying. They're all getting removed from play. And they don't have enough artifacts to make Gate really worth it. On the cut side, Grave Pact isn't going to do a whole lot. Smallpox is a land destruction spell, but we aren't really interested in LDing them, and they don't have any creatures to sacrifice. And they play off the top of their deck better than us because they have Sensei's Divining Top. So that's pretty weak as well. We definitely don't want a, marginal terror in our deck. And we don't want all 4 contaminations. As you saw, we got a little choked on contamination there. That's because we don't really want to play it until we have an opening, and we don't get one of those until fairly late. So basically the only real question is whether we cut the JIT for the Extirpate. I'm willing to try it. I think that, we could get lucky, snipe their tops and extirpate those. We could extirpate their Jaces. But we want to go after a high impact card. So this is about as good as a one-lander has to be for me to be willing to keep it. But this is quite strong. And so I'm willing to Needle Top in the dark. Sensei's Divining Top. And then if we don't draw land, we can therapy. Okay. So we sort of drew a land. And let's see what our opponent's got for us. So they probably don't want to activate a fetch land. But they would like to cast Counterbalance, yeah. So the reason why I didn't therapy Counterbalance there is because we have Abrupt Decay. So we're fine on that front. And we can just crack in and pass. We're in no real hurry. Now we're in a hurry. Because Jace can end the game pretty quickly. So I assume what's going to happen is he's going to brainstorm a top back, reveal it, and then shuffle it. Or reveal brainstorm. Okay. So we're going to get in another point and hope that we don't get jaced. I assume opponent just drew Terminus. That's why they paused on their draw step. Rest in Peace, also bad for us. So we've got all of these cards, it's just that we're stuck on one land, which isn't great. Yeah, I assume this is big Jace. At this point, we are actually still live to, like, be alright. We just have to draw lands instead of drawing those. I assume our opponent's floating a 2 for whatever we could reasonably have. Maybe not. But yeah, we are not exactly seeing the best part of our deck in action here. Shows us another brainstorm. Our opponent Vendilion clicks us when we obviously have 7 spells. On their main phase too, which is a little odd. Says keep it. And what we want to do from here is decay their counterbalance. So they have Batterskull, that's not good for us. Okay, and we're dead. I'll see you in a bit.